Driving the streets of Chicago in the dead of night is like a meditation for me. Cruise, turn, stop, repeat. Drawing Nazca lines with my headlights, signaling alien astronauts land here. I'm back in town to do a job. My target was a brilliant scientist who had caused quite a stir among the people in high places. They said his invention threatened global security. They said his ethics were unsound. He needed to be stopped. I know what they meant. Sometimes when I find people, there are consequences. But I'm not a killer. I didn't want to be in Chicago. I had lost Kwa here some years ago. At the end, they kept saying she was going to a better place. Better for who, I asked. Finding the professor wasn't hard. Mad scientists leave a paper trail. When I found him, he was holed up in an underground lab, and I took the elevator down, and as I pulled the grating apart, he was just standing there. The people in high places, what do they say about me? That your ethics are unsound. Do you think my ethics are unsound? I blinked. What's your name? Valentino Cruz. Are you here to kill me, Valentino? I'm not a killer. Then why are you here? I find people. Yes, you do, and yes, you have. But you look like someone who wants to be found. Do you pray, Valentino? No. Look at you. All the searching, all the finding. You've been praying for your whole life, and you don't even know it. Today, your prayer is going to be answered. Listen, I just came here to find you, dude. I don't know where this is going. A man who finds people doesn't know where he is going. This is ironic, no? What if I told you I have discovered a way to transport people to another reality where the best version of you leads the best life possible? I'm talking about the dope life. All you do is step into the chamber, I press a button, and away you go. I closed my eyes. I thought about people lost and people found. I thought about Kwa. I thought about lights changing color in the dead of night and Nazca lines. I stepped into the chamber. Then I tried to laugh at the irony of this whole situation, but it kind of came out more like a sob. Then I had an existential moment. I looked out at the professor. I said, wait, what happens to me? I mean, this version of me. Do I die? He just smiled at me and said, I'm not a killer, Valentino, and shut the door. In a single flash of golden light, I faded from this world. Good morning. My name is Stephen White, AKA 7. Welcome to Creative Mornings. In 2010, I got a phone call that would change my life. I was driving around the streets of Chicago, and my friend Bobby Wilson called me. He said, White. He calls me White. NPR is having a short fiction contest. I think you should write something. I talked to him for a few more minutes, hung up the phone, and thought, I'm a pretty creative writer. Let's see where this goes. Fast forward to 2022.
Good morning, sleepyhead.
Let me out.
Riders on the storm.
This looks like a college student.
Well, she's
Everybody gets what they want. I was trying to save her. Try harder. With Dope Life, choose your own reality. Yo, Slick, what you got? The Quantini. Ordering a drink is a superposition. Anything can happen. The mixer creates the possibilities. For sure. But we're working on something way bigger.
Low-level players. I'm the go-getter. Tell me what to go get. Baby don't want to get wet no more.
And you're okay zeroing out Nobel scientists because they ran afoul of the International Court of Criminals. You see the irony, right?
A hitter with a heart of gold.
Hi, handsome.
Flip him around. You wanna mindfuck me, Yanguzi? Get a bigger vocabulary. Now fetch me that professor, boy.
The people in high places, the people on your cards. What do they say about me? That your ethics are unsound. What's your name? Valentino Cruz. Thank you. In the next 20 minutes, it's my job to show you how a chance call from a friend led to me embarking on the most dangerous creative project I've ever worked on in my life, and also define my own unique creative ethos, which I call the Dope Life. But first, an origin story. Every good superhero has to have an origin story, right? Even supervillains. These are my parents. My mom is a beautiful artist, musician, teacher, and painter, yet she's very conservative and proper. My dad was a very analytically minded guy, went to study chemistry in college and went on to become a military officer in intelligence, Army intelligence. I'm really proud to be the product of their beautiful union. Two very different people, but very passionate. They just celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary, so shout out Gilbert and Larcinia White. So as a little kid, my mom really inspired me to get into books and reading. She had a passion for it. And there I am with her looking like a little fashion kid here. My mom was very stylish. But she really led me into exploring reading and computers and science. And I was like a total nerdy kid. I'm totally celebrating getting a TRS-80 computer, and I don't care if that dates me. Okay, I'm owning it. So yeah, I was adorable. But as a little kid, I was always kind of the new kid because I was an Army brat. So we'd move around, and I'd be the new kid in school. And I was often the only black kid. You know, I was out in the West and different places, so the kids would tease me for being different. They'd run through the halls, and they'd squeeze my afro, and they'd say, "Don't squeeze the Charmin," and run away. And it was kind of a funny thing because it's kind of the first type of Afropunk that I think has ever been defined. What is Afropunk? Afropunk for me describes the reality of growing up marginalized in your culture. You know, being the only black kid in class, or having the kids play with your afro and say, "Don't squeeze the Charmin." But as you grow up and you get into your adolescent years, you know, what does that mean? You find yourself the only black person at a heavy metal show. or mixing in places that aren't traditionally black. But then you come back and you bring your own spin to that. Okay, so now if one story kind of had to define my childhood as an origin story, it would be the summer when we went back to visit my grandmother. So I was living in Arizona, and we would go back every year to the Deep South outside of Charleston and visit my grandmother, because that's where my parents are from. And I was such a nerdy little kid, had all my books, I stayed in a lot. My grandma was like, no, you got to get out of the house, boy. I want you to go to this summer camp and play with the other kids like a regular kid and have some fun. So I packed up all my books and stuff and went to the playground. And on the way there, I'm like, well, at least I'm not going to be teased for being different here. All the kids have afros, right? So I got there, and all the kids gathered around me. And then one kid pointed at me and said, hey, look, it's the little professor. And they just started laughing. And it was like in the movies where you see the voices real big and the echoes. And I was just ashamed. I cried. I ran back to my grandmother's house, and she said, boy, you better get back over there. And I ran back, and I somehow tried to fit in. But it was an early message of, you know what? You don't really fit in either worlds. So you're going to have to find your own path. So skip forward to my early career. I studied marketing in my undergrad and was really enticed by the world of advertising and the glamour of advertising. So I did some startup companies and tried a couple of creative routes, but I also worked at big companies. At Allstate Insurance, I wrote this strategy brief that spawned one of the most successful advertising campaigns of all time. But along the way, I got to work with some of the best advertising agencies and creatives: Leo Burnett, Siegel and Gale, Burrell Communications. I remember writing papers about Thomas Burrell when I was in college, and then got the chance to work with that agency. So I was really maxing and peaking out in my marketing career, going to the World Cup, NASCAR races, on those boondoggles with the media companies. Back when advertising was cool. I know it's hard for some of you to remember TV and advertising, but So I was leading kind of this Mad Men life, and I loved it. But deep inside, I was involved in the creative process, but it wasn't really my ideas, and it wasn't even really for my stuff. So my creative ethos said, you know what, I need more. I want a little more. So that fast forward to 5 years after I wrote that 3-minute excerpt, I experienced somewhat of a creative boom. In 2015, I actually had a dream. I was at like a full moon jam type thing, and I was in these drum circles with guys, and there was this one leader of the drum circle, and his name was Eagleheart, and he would always teach us about Native American drum beats and things. I thought it was cool that he really was dialed into his heritage. And I had a question one night. I was like, I wonder what my real heritage is. This was something that was just on my mind. And I went to sleep, and I remember coming into this space, and the voice said to me, welcome, Ancient of Days. And it was like I was coming back from a mission, and I was like in this pyramid, subterranean school of Athens, like an adult Harry Potter, people wearing robes and debating mathematics and science and physics. And I remember I could write on the walls, like runes and symbols in the walls. And I woke up the next morning. I talked to a friend of mine for a while about this dream, and I started thinking, that feeling was calling to me, and I thought, where can I get that feeling of being part of a higher purpose, of learning and being inspired? And a voice said to me, it's time to go to grad school. So that's when I entered the IIT Institute of Design. And at IIT, I got exactly that same feeling. I got that feeling of designing the future, like an advanced civilization, really trying to come up with innovative solutions. You can see a couple pictures of me there. And what was cool about it, one day in class, I was working with some abstract things on the walls with people writing on the whiteboards. And I thought, I'm writing on the walls, just like in that dream. And that's where it really became real to me that I was on a powerful journey. At the same time, I had a lot of influences. I was heavily influenced by the Afro Samurai. Who's heard of the Afro Samurai? Shout out. All right. So it's a story about a black samurai in a dystopian feudal Japan competing for the #1 headband, trying to avenge the death of his father. And the music by the RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan. Holla. And also always been my spirit guide, the legendary poet Saul Williams. Give it up for Saul Williams. And make sure you go see Neptune's Frost, great film that's out now. I was also doing my own music adventures. I was in bands, crazy bands, a lot of performance art. Evidently, I like to wear a lot of wigs. And I was making music at that time that actually eventually became the Ancient Future soundtrack, which you can check out on SoundCloud. And I also was dabbling in stand-up comedy. My friend Angel actually took this pictures at Reggie's on State Street. And so I did 10 open mics before the pandemic. And for some of my friends and the people that saw me, they said a hidden blessing of the pandemic was that it stopped my comedy adventure in its tracks. So I disagree. But I always was drawn back to this idea of, while I'm driving the streets of Chicago, asking in the back of my mind, who is Valentino Cruz? I wrote that story 5 years ago, but I couldn't shake it. And I kept on, I would perform it kind of like I performed Just For You, like in, yoga studios or different events. I'd try to do open mics just because I wanted to kind of get that feeling and get it close and keep brewing it. So with all these thoughts of Valentino Cruz on my mind, I graduated from Institute of Design and I entered the global stage. I started my own design consulting firm called Seven under my name, my nom de guerre. And we were doing design education, innovating, problem solving, doing all kinds of really cool things. I immediately developed partnerships with some key organizations, Luma Institute, who is a human-centered design training firm. And that took me around the world at big companies and organizations. Also Foresight, and then also the Joint Special Operations University. As Marlene said before, I work with the elite special forces teaching creative problem solving. So a lot of people think, oh, the military, that's kind of boring or bureaucratic, or, people have different views about it. But a lot of the technologies and innovations that we have today actually come from declassified military technology. Things like Kevlar or duct tape or the internet. All these things that we use, radios and things like that, actually come from declassified military use. And if you're a conspiracy theorist like me, you'll know that some of that stuff actually has even more exotic origins. The military is in possession of extraterrestrial artifacts. Read The Day After Roswell by Colonel Curso. So there I am in Coronado Island with a group of Navy SEALs, doing some training exercises, helping their teams to operate better using creative problem-solving techniques. Traveling the world, partner forces in Uzbekistan at an officers academy, teaching them how to prototype for new products, and they're actually working on different flying vehicles and different formations. But I'd always be surprised when I would go into the military and teach a design technique and to see how they would use it. So there was one design framework called a journey map, where if you're trying to plan a movie theater lobby or something, you think of how are people hearing about the experience? How do they enter in? What's the engagement like? How do they exit? Exit through the gift shop, right, Carrie? You think about these things in the experience. But I was teaching this to some Navy SEALs, and I came back 2 hours later, and what they were doing was they were using it to build empathy with young people that might become radicalized and possibly become suicide bombers or dangerous to society. So from there I knew that, wow, how complex an organization. You're known for maybe killing, but now they're trying to prevent wars. We don't see that part of what the military does. I spent a lot of time in Marriott conference rooms, training executives and trying to inspire them to be more creative. Then in 2020, I got another phone call that changed my life. Welcome to the pandemic. I was at a think tank in Virginia, and I got a call, said, hey, the workshop's canceled. where everybody's going home, there's some kind of a health problem. And this is when I entered what I call my onesie phase. I bought a onesie on Amazon. I just said, hey, I'm just chilling. I'm watching Netflix, eating Cheetos, walking in the park, just like living some kind of a vacation because I couldn't really do much work. And then one day I got the thought, who is Valentino Cruz? Now's the time to find out. So I started working on Ancient Futures in earnest. And you can see, I would use my design training. I always make my thinking visual. I put my thinking on the walls. So I started scratching out ideas and sketches and writing on my computer. And eventually I found an amazing artist, Aaron McConnell, whose artwork you see. And we worked every week on Zoom on these ideas. I'd give him these, he tells it like, you would give me these intense downloads, and I'm talking about ancient mysticism and stuff, and we're just going and going, Valentino Cruz. And we started developing the story more and more. And you can see my walls are always covered with outlines of the story, moving it around, scratching things together. We eventually got to a point where we were able to get the story to a place where we could actually do a Kickstarter. So shout out to some of our Kickstarter supporters are in the house. And our goal was 10,000 in 30 days, and we reached 13K in 3 days. So that was super cool. Thank you. And you're all invited to episode 2 Kickstarter. Come on! But it doesn't stop there, y'all. This is the output of what was in the Dope Life swag bag, by the way. So we did books, posters, t-shirts, and then also I developed a tarot card system based on Jungian psychology and the characters. And we're able to actually tell fortunes using these cards. So the story has kind of gone in some different ways, and that's one of the most exciting things at events that people love. And the Oracle of Ancient Futures is here as well, Zaina. So this is Comic-Con, Chicago Comic-Con, C2E2. So imagine me coming from the pandemic, writing this thing in a bleary and a onesie, to being at one of the biggest Comic-Cons, in the world. And that's Aaron on the far right. That's Aaron McConnell from Portland. He's actually the artist behind Ancient Futures. Shout out to my buddy Socrates. And Cookie Ta on the left. She's part of the street team of Ancient Futures, getting out there, bringing people in to get their fortunes told. But it hasn't stopped, still going. Here I am. One of the things is I got to connect with so many different people just along the way before the book was even out. I'm talking at Gary Comer Foundation on their career day, inspiring kids to be artists. I spoke at the Insect Asylum, the only insect petting zoo in Chicago. Check it out in Wicker Park, or more Avondale, I think it is. And then I spent a lot of time in comic book stores, mixing it up with them and talking to fans. So this journey has just put me in a lot of different situations that I never thought I'd be before. Here I am using the fortune card telling system, the Oracle cards at Comic-Con. And I want to show you a video next. We have several videos like these of someone who actually got their fortune told, and this is their reaction.
Hey, sir, what's your name?
My name's Fabian.
Fabian, how was your reading?
It was eerily accurate. He nailed it down, the way my past was, where I'm going with what I know now. And I was really surprised that, he really got it down to a T. So
how are you feeling though?
I don't know, it's more just surprised, really. The fact that he got it, it's exactly how things have been going. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I came in a bit skeptical, but then it went on.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of oh, he's actually onto something. And then he hit the last one. I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool that he got it perfectly. So.
All right. So are you gonna recommend us, everyone?
Yeah, definitely recommend.
Yes. Come check us out.
Yeah.
Ancient Futures.
Yes.
I guess it's no surprise that I wrote a story about a guy driving the streets of Chicago, conflicted about his life and his work and his relationships, looking up into the ancient night sky for answers. It kind of sums up my life. And I can certainly relate to a canceled professor with dangerous ideas. But this journey, embarking on this journey, has allowed me to integrate very complex, disparate parts of my life by externalizing it in the form of Valentino Cruz. It has allowed me to take my shame, my tension, and my conflicts and turn them into new areas of growth and wonder. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "The individual is always struggling to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you do it, you will be oftentimes scared, sometimes lonely. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." What if I told you I had discovered a way to transport people to another reality, where the best version of you lives the best life possible? Would you take it? Follow your wonder. Thanks, y'all.
All right, can we all give a round of applause to Seven up here? Thank you so much, Sheila.